When people think about the Beatles, they usually imagine unity, creativity, and four men changing music forever. But beneath that legendary image, there were moments of tension so intense that even Paul McCartney, the driving force behind much of their music, reached his breaking point. And there was one song in particular that pushed him to walk out of the studio. It happened during the making of the White Album in 1968. By this point, the Beatles were no longer the same band that stormed America just 4 years earlier. Fame, ego, drugs, and exhaustion had reshaped the group. They were no longer four lads from Liverpool pulling in the same direction. They were four individuals with different visions. John Lennon wanted raw rock and provocative statements. George Harrison was growing frustrated, eager for more of his own material to be recognized. Ringo Starr was tired of feeling like an afterthought, and Paul McCartney was fighting harder than ever to keep the music sharp, polished, and ambitious. The sessions for the White Album were infamous for their hostility. The group worked more like solo artists than a band. Each Beatle often recorded their own tracks with minimal help from the others. The harmony that once defined them was crumbling. But the real flashpoint came with one song, Obla Di, Obla Da. Paul McCartney had written the track as a light-hearted reggae-inspired tune. He was obsessed with making it perfect, recording version after version. He pushed the band relentlessly, insisting on small changes, retakes, and rearrangements. What was supposed to be a simple, upbeat number turned into a nightmare of endless sessions. The rest of the band quickly lost patience. John Lennon hated the song outright, calling it trivial and meaningless. He saw it as a waste of time when the band had more serious material to focus on. George Harrison wasn't interested in polishing what he considered a disposable track. Even Ringo Starr, who was usually the quiet one, rolled his eyes at the endless attempts to capture the right feel. But Paul refused to give up. His perfectionism turned the sessions toxic. The breaking point came when tension spilled into open conflict. McCartney continued demanding take after take, obsessing over minor details no one else cared about. The atmosphere grew unbearable. John openly mocked the song. George sat in silence, seething. And finally, Paul snapped. After yet another failed attempt, he stormed out of the studio in frustration. For a moment, it looked like even he had lost faith in his own vision. This walkout wasn't just about Obla Di, Obla Da. It symbolized the widening cracks within the Beatles. Paul, once the glue that held the band together, was now at odds with the very people he relied on. His perfectionism, which had driven the Beatles to greatness, was now pushing them apart. The song that was meant to be light-hearted and fun had become a battlefield. Eventually, John Lennon returned the next day, high on frustration and defiance, and pounded out a mocking piano version of the track. Ironically, that sarcastic performance gave the song the energy it needed, and the version we know today came from that moment. But the damage was done. The memory of Paul's walkout hung over the sessions, reminding everyone just how fragile their bond had become. Obla Di, Obla Da may sound cheerful on the surface, but behind its upbeat melody lies one of the darkest moments in the studio. It forced Paul McCartney, the man who prided himself on holding things together, to walk away. And it proved that by 1968, the Beatles were no longer a united band. They were four individuals heading toward inevitable collapse. This song stands as a symbol of the tension, the obsession, and the cracks that destroyed the Beatles from within. For Paul, walking out was a rare moment of defeat. For the band, it was another step toward the end. And for the fans, it remains a hidden story behind one of their most deceptively joyful songs.